Okay, what's going on? Vincent Rapsardi, BigBlueUnbiased.com. I don't think I'm going to even edit this video. I'm just going to record it, and I'm going to post it. The Giants just won a football game about, 10 minutes ago. Wow, what a game. 21-10, about 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and I think me, along with you guys, are probably like, this game, another Giants loss. Another just lifeless Giants loss. They can't score points. What's going to happen after this game? People are going to get fired. Something big is going to happen. I can't even believe what I just saw because you haven't seen that from the Giants in so long. They fought back and they won that damn football game. Unbelievable. And if you had any questions about Daniel Jones, franchise quarterback or not, which, sure, there are many of you that did. Judging by the comments on the last video, many of you did. And I understand. He's their franchise quarterback. That's a guy you move forward with. That's an incredibly talented player who threw for over 400 yards, averaged over 10 yards per pass attempt, and the big plays were there. I think I may have mentioned in my last video, I recorded a couple of them, one of them got deleted, but so you can't just put together, I'm not saying 14-play drives are bad. They're not, but it depends on the situation. And like I said, in that fourth quarter, when they're down 21-10, the defense was giving up a ton of yards on the ground. I think 170 rushing yards from the Saints in total. It's not looking good, right? And you can't have a drive if you get the football back where it takes you 5 minutes to score a touchdown when you're down 21-10. They come right back after the punt, good return by C.J. Board, and then Barkley, a 54-yard touchdown. That's what you need. You had the John Ross 50-plus yard touchdown earlier in the game. You see these big chunk plays from players who certainly have the potential to do that. Ross does, Barkley does, Golladay does, and Kadarius Toney, 6 receptions, 78 yards. He was really, really good. He had that one drop over the middle, but man, he is an elusive player. Continue to get him the football, and just think about, they didn't have Sterling Shepard. He's arguably their best receiver. Complete receiver-wise, route running, good hands, all that. Sterling Shepard's arguably their best receiver. Slayton, you didn't have him either. And their offense, especially in that fourth quarter, the big play ability, you start seeing them. You start seeing the true potential of what some of these guys can do. That huge pass in overtime from Jones to Golladay that really set them up in a nice spot. And then Barkley up the middle for the game-winning touchdown. And you see when Barkley is used the right way. Aside from that 54-yard touchdown by Barkley, the receiving touchdown, 2nd and 14 in overtime, and they run a screen to Barkley, which is what I did mention in the last video. I said I would draw up 4 to 5, just minimum, like requirement, every single game, 4 to 5 screens for Saquon Barkley. He's that talented. Give him the ball in space and see what he does. And they did that. And they got a big chunk of yardage on 2nd and 14. I believe they got the first down in overtime on a screen to Barkley. Guy's a talented player. Talented player. Give him some space and let him run. And the 54-yard touchdown, obviously, really utilizing him as a wide receiver. Again, he's a very talented football player. You don't just. It's not just old school football where you just hand off. It's a dive play. The guy, you move him around. Throw the football to him on a screen. Put him out wide. Do this. Do that. Mix and match because you want to get him the football as often as possible. He's that talented. You took him 2nd overall for a reason, and you finally saw in this game, especially towards the end, it took them some time, obviously, to get this thing going, but they finally utilized a player like Saquon Barkley the way that he should be utilized. And look at what happened. The big 54-yard touchdown, you had the touchdown run at the end of the game, you had that 2nd and 14 screen that I'm talking about that really put them in a nice spot after that weird penalty with Colin Johnson, legal substitution. The Giants are alive. They showed some fight. I did not see this coming, and I think a lot of you didn't see this coming either because I think we were all kind of expecting, especially late in the game when they set up for the field goal. 3rd down, they handed off to Barkley in the fourth quarter, and they're setting up for a 48-yard field goal. I'm like, oh, man, I don't know. I don't know if I would have called that. I don't know. This is still a decent field goal. It's not easy. Gano just nails it. The guy is absolute money. He missed a kick in this game, but look, he's been an absolutely outstanding pickup for the Giants. So that happens. You tie the game, and then you go in the attack mode in overtime. And it's amazing what they can do if they start playing aggressive. The players are there. I think that's why people have been so frustrated this season specifically. In prior years, okay, maybe they weren't expected to win. This year, the players are there. I sent a tweet out ripping Jason Garrett right before they came back and won this game. And I'm like, at that point, they had 10 points in the game. You had 14 points against Atlanta. You had 13 points against Denver. I'm like, this is unacceptable. They have too much talent for them to be doing this every week where they're scoring 10 to 14 points. Well, there you go. Absolute explosion there in the fourth quarter and overtime. And let me just say this again. Daniel Jones is 100% your guy moving forward. I don't know what more you would want in a potential franchise quarterback. And he had 2 touchdowns passing, but really 3 on that John Ross weird fumble thing. So he was out. He was really outstanding, and he came up clutch when they needed him. Almost gave you some Eli vibes back in the day, the prime Eli days. So, wow, what a win. So Jones, like I said, finishes with over 10 yards per attempt. You look at the scorecard, and Kenny Golladay almost a little over 19 yards per reception. That's the kind of player that he is. When they signed him, big play, wide receiver tough, over the middle, that huge play on that slant that Jones threw him, and he threw Malcolm Jenkins off him. Huge play. That's what you need. Big-time players make those big-time plays in big-time Week 4 games. So, huge. Golladay played really well. Kadarius Toney, we finally saw him get the football, and he looked really, really good, aside from that one drop like I mentioned. John Ross comes back, and he hits a home run. That's kind of what you expect from John Ross. You're not going to he's not going to be the best route runner and all that, but you want him to hit home run maybe once a game. It doesn't have to always be a touchdown, but obviously in this case it was. And let me just say this, just initially, I'd have to look at the numbers, but watching that game, the offensive line looked really good in pass protection. Really good for a group that, they're mixing and matching pieces here and there. They've lost some guys to injury and retirement. They looked really, really good from what I saw, just kind of sitting back, especially late in that fourth quarter. Jones was in a really nice spot to throw the football. I remember there was one play, I believe it was in overtime, to John Ross, where Jones was just sitting back there, and he was able to wait. Big play to John Ross, maybe about 15 yards or so. I'd have to go back and look. Andrew Thomas looks really, really good. This Giants offensive line played really well. I think you got to give them credit. I don't think anybody watched them and saw Jones under duress the entire game. I think most of the time he had some really strong protection. And this is against a pretty good Saints defense. They came into this week as a really, really solid group. So this is an absolutely huge win for the Giants, because I think it finally gives them this, hey, we can actually win a game. We have some confidence in ourselves and actually pulling out a win. And to pull it out like this, when you were down by 11 points with 7 or so minutes left, and then in overtime you get the football and you just go right down the field and you score, outstanding. And Daniel Jones, you got to be really excited if you watch this game, the end of this game specifically with Daniel Jones. He's ready to go.